everyone. I know you all know that we got a new pastor over the summer, but because of COVID-19, we really haven't gotten to know our pastor very much. So we thought it would be nice if we had a little interview with Pastor Dan and learn a little bit more about him. Good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Cannot wait till we can be done with masks, and
Absolutely.
I have to adjust them all the time and all that good stuff.
Yep, and it fogs up the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, not fun stuff.
No.
But okay, let's get started with the questions. This is going to be really fun. We are going to start with a question from Eli Kelly, and he's age 8, and he would like to know your favorite color.
I think my favorite color is probably Cleveland Browns orange.
Oh, okay.
No, actually it would be blue. But,
Oh, okay.
You know, it's the football season, so I'll go with Cleveland Browns orange.
Oh, okay. Orange happens to be my daughter's favorite color,
Okay,
too.
well, that's a good color. That's a very good color.
Maya Evans, age 5, but she'll be 6 in the end of December. So happy birthday, Maya. Wants to know, I'm hoping this isn't too personal, but it is her question. She would like to know how old you are.
Maya, I am 56 years old. I just turned 56 on the 4th of October, so I'm getting used to that.
Nice. Okay, Sharon and Jim Fouts has a question. They would like to know about your family and your dogs.
All right. Well, first of all, I've been married to my wife, Selena, for 32 years, and we met in college. We have 4 children. We have Alyssa, who is 28 years old. And I get nervous here because I'm trying to remember they get older every year just like I do.
Yep.
So I think I'm telling you this right. Alyssa is 28 years old, and she is married and has two children. And there are 2 grandchildren that we love just so dearly and are so happy to be down closer to them. And then we have 3 other children, and they're all 26 years old because they're triplets. And
That's
so
awesome.
Our other 3 children are 2 boys, Andy and Jacob, and a girl, Abigail, and she's also married. And then we now have 2 dogs. We've had 2 or 3 dogs in our family for as long as I can remember, but right now we have 2 dogs, and their names are Bella and Oakley.
Oh, I had a dog named Bella. What kind of dogs are they?
Bella is a hound dog, and Oakley is a cross between a dachshund, a Jack Russell Terrier, and a Beagle. And she has some of the worst characteristics of all 3 of those dogs.
Oh, wow.
We love her dearly, but she can be trying at times.
I have Basset Hounds, and the one was named Bella.
Okay.
She passed away, but now I have a Basset Hound named Dolly. So, hounds are in my heart.
Oh, dogs have been a part of our life for forever.
Oh, yes. Okay, Carol Hemsel would like to know, when did you decide to go into the ministry? And kind of like a companion question, we have Tanya Evans would like to know what led you into the ministry.
Okay. Well, when I was about 4 years old, I accepted Jesus. My mother helped me with that decision. I asked her a question about, is there a heaven? I was going through something at that time, just a little guy, and I was really scared of death. And so I asked my mom about, is there a heaven? And she was rather surprised and told me, you know, that's why we go to church. Well, I'm a little guy, so I hardly understood what church was. But
Right.
then she said, you know, Jesus died for our sins. And so as a 4-year-old, maybe a 5-year-old, I accepted as a 4 or 5-year-old can accept that Jesus Christ was my Savior. From that time on, I've tried to grow with that and mature with that. At about 8 years old, I felt a calling on my life to become a pastor. And I really thought from 8 years old on I might be a pastor until I was about 16 years old. And then I decided I will be the best Christian you want me to be, God, but I don't want to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. And that lasted about a year, and I just felt this immense weight on my shoulders till my father and I went in our home church up to the altar, and I said to God, okay, I'll be a pastor. And as soon as I said that to God, it was like the weight just came right off my shoulders. And I just had an immense sense of peace that no matter what, God would get me through whatever we faced. He just said, lean on me. And so that's how, so it was kind of a series of events over years, but the very original feeling or sense was about 8 years old.
That's awesome. I love that story. Okay, Eloise Kilmore would like to know which seminary you attended.
I went to the Methodist Theological School in Ohio, which is in Delaware, Ohio, very near, Brian, the Holy Land of Columbus, where Ohio State plays. But that wasn't the reason I went there.
All right. This is kind of a funny question. Eric Ganna wondered how you can stand on the edge of the stage while you preach and not fall off.
Through the years, 30 years of ministry, I have had moments where I have in fact tripped or fallen or misstepped. As I got older and as the eyes got a little bit worse and you start to wear glasses, you know how you can really, it can be tough to
Yes.
judge distances and depth. There have been moments of falling and almost falling, not all the way down, but stumbling. And I thought about this question when you shared some of the questions with me. In the Lapeer Church, that was the last place I had to wear a robe.
Okay.
One service we would not wear robes, and the other service we did wear robes. And the robes always made me look like an Oompa Loompa. I mean, I looked like Friar Tuck in a robe. It made me look fatter, shorter.
Yeah.
And there was steps in the Lapeer Church that I had to go up. And I would catch my feet on the hem of the robe like every third Sunday.
Oh, no.
And either going down or coming up. So I was quite relieved to not have to wear robes anymore in the places I have served since then.
Oh, I can imagine. Okay, this is my question. I would like to know, well, I think you answered part of that question, if you went to Sunday school as a child, and if you did, what your favorite part of that was.
Okay. Sunday school, as I look back now, was an immensely important part of my life for a number of reasons. Number one, it was the very first place in someone outside of my family that I saw unconditional love. There were two Sunday school ladies. One's name was Mrs. Tobias. One's name was Mrs. Quirin. To this day, I'm not sure what their first names were because even as an adult, I called them Mrs. Tobias and Mrs. Quirin. When I would go home for holidays to the home church, I'd still see those ladies. Those ladies would walk up. The church I grew up in had 3 flights of stairs, no elevator.
Oh, wow.
Those ladies, and I don't know how to say this politely, I'm just going to say it. For as long as I can remember, they were older ladies. That made me realize we are old looking for a long time, you know, especially to young kids.
Yeah.
Well, these older ladies were just the most beautiful people I ever met. They would go 3 flights of stairs up to the Sunday school room on the 3rd floor. They would always have these incredible snacks. And I think about it now, they got Kool-Aid, which was in a jug, which means someone had to carry that.
Oh, wow.
Up those flights of stairs for us kids. And we would have these flannel boards with Bible stories. We'd have these wonderful snacks that these ladies made for us. We would have these great lessons. We'd sing songs together. Both of them knew how to play the piano on those old,
awesome.
you know, those old sounding pianos that are off tune because they sit way up in a building. And those ladies just poured their hearts and their love into us children. And I know some of my friends in Sunday school who are still my friends, and they wouldn't mind me saying this. They weren't the easiest to get along with. Some of them were very inventive in their deviltries, let's say, okay? And these ladies just loved us for as long as I can remember. And when I left for seminary, they were still teaching Sunday school.
Yeah.
And so they introduced me to Jesus. They introduced me to the Bible stories. They introduced me to what unconditional love looks like. And they always did it with a smile and this pleasantness on their face that they could make everybody in the room feel like you're their favorite.
Yeah.
And so that was wonderful. And then in September of 1974, the Sunday school department gave me my first Bible. And back in those days, I don't think there probably wasn't children's Bibles with pictures like, and I love those now, but this was a regular person's Bible. But I still use that Bible.
Wow.
And that Bible has been a part of my life. Matter of fact, I used it this morning.
Oh,
that Bible has been a part of my life in some of the most difficult hospital calls that I've had to make over the 30 years. Because it's been a companion to me that has given me a sense of God's love and God's presence since I was 10 years old in 1974.
That's awesome.
And when I know I'm going to go to a particularly difficult hospital call, I grab that Bible. And it's almost like a security blanket with me. And it just gives me some reassurance to carry it with me. So Sunday school was a major part of my life. And by the time I got to high school, I started teaching Sunday school. I taught the 4th through 6th graders because there's always that shortage, And the only thing I knew to do at that time was to teach them the Bible verse by verse. And I didn't even know commentaries existed at that time, so we just would read the Bible together and talk about what we thought it meant. I would look up some stuff. The pastor had some stuff I could look stuff up, but it just has been.
That's awesome. So you knew from young on that you had a love for God and for the Bible and for children too, it sounds like.
Yeah, I always loved being around kids. It's because probably I'm so immature. And being short helps too.
Yes.
But yeah, and I did. I started reading God's Word. I got it at 10, so I started reading it. I mean, I took it seriously. I liked reading the gospel. Now, I probably wasn't turned to Leviticus and Deuteronomy back in those days, but I learned to love the gospel in the book of Acts, and then I discovered the book of Romans, and it was all in that Bible. And it was so meaningful. It just always has touched my heart. So.
Awesome. I don't know if you can see it on his face, but I can just feel the love and the energy, and it's just awesome. Can you tell us what you do when you're not working, like what your hobbies are and things like that?
Well, believe it or not, I do like to work out still, and boy, if I didn't work out, I'd really be a mess. So I like to do that, and it gets rid of some of the pent-up energy and even sometimes the frustration that you can feel in any given week, And so the working out, much lighter weights than it used to be, and I get on my treadmill. I call it my medieval torture chamber, and I get on there and walk my mile or my 2 miles on that. The other thing I like to do in sports, obviously, I like to watch football and basketball and baseball. But the other thing I love to do in the evening is to pick up something that I want to read. And I tend not to read a book all the way through. I tend to have books all over the place and just grab a different one. And it'll be anything from American history to Bible history to just stuff about Christianity, stuff about church growth. And for the most part, it's kind of difficult to separate what I do for work from what I do for fun as far as what I study and read and so on. And so sometimes at home, I think my wife wonders if I'm working all the time. and the truth is, if I was a school teacher, which was my other love, I did that for a little while.
Okay.
I took a year off from seminary. That's another discussion for another time. If I were a teacher, as many of my family are, I'd be reading the same stuff as I'm reading right now, just because it's what I love to read, and it's a hobby. So it'll be anything from interesting aspects of Bible stories to church history to American history, the Pilgrims and how they settled. So that's all stuff I just like to read.
Oh, good. Awesome. Our last question comes from Brian Kelly, and he wanted to know what or who has been your biggest influences in your life?
Well, obviously, Mrs. Tobias and Mrs. Quirin were big influences in my life. My baseball coach in high school was a huge influence in my life. Just learned a lot from him about life itself and how to win and how to lose. A gentleman by the name of Harold Cochran, back in my home church. Harold was the first person that ever actually approached me about going into ministry.
Oh, okay.
I had the feeling, but I didn't know the steps. I knew you had to go to college in our system and then to seminary, but I didn't know what the time frame was. I didn't know what the steps were. And I think it was in college when he came up to me. We sang in the choir together. He's just a person that I always just looked at his life, and Christ flowed from it, and kindness, and not only a moral character, but just a kindness and a grace in the midst of that as well.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and said, Dan, I think God is calling you to ministry. And I think I surprised him because the words were no sooner out of his mouth than I said, he is.
Oh, wow.
What do I do?
Yeah.
And he got me connected to the district superintendent, and he helped to get me through the process at the beginning of what to do in the Toledo district. I lived in Toledo at that time, to begin the process of ministry. So he was a big influence. And then my dad had always been a huge influence in my life. And the cool thing with that was he was a dad who needed to be a dad that was, training you and teaching you when you were young, and you knew the line of demarcation, and respect was built with that. But I don't know exactly when, but somewhere along the time frame, he became my best friend.
Awesome.
And as adults, we were able to relate to each other. He never stopped being my dad, never stopped having that sense of respect for him, but we really became best friends. And so being able to relate to him as an adult, and being able to know there was somebody there I could pick up the phone and just ask a question about. And what I loved about him is he would give advice, but he'd never call you back to see if you took it.
Okay.
And he'd always say things like, well, you should talk to this person first, but if it were me, here's what I would do. And then he dropped it unless I brought it up again. So his advice was, here it is, and you do with it. You asked me, so here it is, now
Right.
It's up to you. So that was it made it easy to talk to him.
Right.
And so I've been blessed throughout my life to have these folks that God has just seemed to bring along my path and just help with the process.
Oh,
I've
that's
been really
great.
blessed, Tracy.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much for letting us interview you and getting some more information and just getting to know you a little bit better. I know a lot of people have talked to you in different circumstances, but there's a lot that haven't. And it's just fun to get to know more personal things about you. And I know that I've talked to many people that just love your sermons and just really connect with you. And I just hope everybody can enjoy this interview and learn a little bit more about you. And hopefully, very soon, we'll be able to be more together and getting together in social situations so we can talk even more.
I hope so. Well, I've enjoyed this very much, and I look so forward to getting to know people on a better, greater basis as we grow together as a church in the next 10, 15 years.
Absolutely.
Here. Thank you.
You're welcome.